What's happening, my creative creatures? This is Ipaintcreatures, also known as IPC. Welcome to the channel, and today's video is all about answering the question, can you use ink pens on canvas? Spoiler alert, yes you can, but we're going to go through the certain techniques and the certain types of pens you can use on canvas. So the first requirement of using ink on canvas is the ink pens should be pigment-based or oil-based, and they should be waterproof, and so they stick on the canvas. And then when you use water mediums, put water in your acrylics or any type of water-based paint, it won't smear them, and it'll hold the ink in place. And so now I'm going to go through some of my favorite pens to use on canvas. Of course, one of my favorite sketching and drawing pens, which is the Round Stick by Bic. And these are very cheap and very accessible, and they work incredible on canvas. And I believe they are oil-based, and so they are waterproof, and they stay on there. And you can use the ballpoint pen, very sketchy, and you're also going to get very thin lines. Another one from Bic is their RSVP pens. It's actually from Pentel. Right, it's an RSVP pen, and it's the same thing as the Bic. The Bic is the standard, the Bic stick is standard, but Pentel makes this one with a cool rubber grip on it, and you can get very sketchy and very thin lines. And then I would move to the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens, and these I believe are water-based, but they're pigment-based pens, and so they are archival ink, and they will apply very, very well. And then probably one of my favorite ones is the zebra pens. And these zebra pens, they're not the normal ballpoint zebra pens. They're the ones that are basically, it's a synthetic brush tip, so it bends. And so you can get thick and thin lines, but you could also do very thin lines and control it very well. And then I would move on to another pigment, a Pigma FB. That's the fine ballpoint pen, right? And this is another synthetic brush pen, and you can see it basically is plastic, and so it can get thick and thin lines. And then moving on, this is another one of my favorite lines of pens. It comes in very different boldness, and this is the fine point one, and it's made by Sakura from Japan, and it's a Pigma FB. And this is just like the zebra pens, and it has a synthetic brush tip. And so I will demonstrate how you can get thick and thin, and it has pigment ink in it, so it'll has stain power on the canvas. And then I'll move to the Identi pen, which is also made by Sakura, and I think this is their call to basic equivalent of a Sharpie, right? The Sharpie pen that is basically the standard. And Identi pen is really cool because it has that synthetic kind of point pen on one side, a very thin one, and then a thick one, almost like a Sharpie tip, a round blunt tip on the other side. And so that's another one to use. And then for really thick pen marks, you can use like any of these big Pitt pen also makes them really big. This is a fabric marker, but it has pigment ink that will apply and stick very well. And the last one is just a standard brush pen, right? It has it's water-based, right? But it has pigment ink in it, so it has stain power. So those are basically the set of pens that I use on canvas. And now I'm going to demonstrate how you use them on canvas. And one of the big benefits of using ink pens on canvas for me is I do a lot of creature and character illustrations, so I can draw right on the canvas and create those nice outlines to either paint within or paint on top of them and keep the form really well. So to end the video, to review what I told you, it's best to use pigment-based ink, waterproof ink. It's best to have some type of gesso or enough a tooth on the surface of the canvas, which most canvases come with gesso already on it, so the ink gets applied easier and sticks. And you can use all these different types of pens, from ballpoint pen to these identity pens, to a thick brush pen, to a synthetic brush pen. And then I'm going to give you a bonus tip. We're going to go out on the bonus tip. So you see right here, I could redefine that horn shape real easy with the pen, right? So what you want to do, if you can go, what I do is I can go back and forth between acrylic and ink, acrylic, ink, acrylic, ink. So like I said, you could either, leave all these lines in here so it's an ink-based illustration with all the outlines of thick ink, or you can just use this as a great outline where all the darks are and paint on top of them. And so basically the end painting is a painting, and so it's kind of like an underdrawing you're using the ink for. But a bonus tip is you can use an eraser, and not really an eraser, but this is eraser technique where you just use some white acrylic paint and apply it on top of your ink where it got too dark or something. See right here. So I could erase it. So I can even take one of these lines and erase it. And then all you got to do is wait till it dries and then go back over it with either paint or ink again. So you can erase this line right here. So it's a kind of neat way of erasing things. And then, like I said, all you gotta do is wait for that to dry. Make sure you wait for a lot of the paint to dry before you go back and forth with the ink pen, because what happens is you'll start to ruin your ink pens. And it's okay to kind of ruin these type pens because they're cheap, especially the big pen, because basically what will happen is the acrylic ink gets up in the pen and dries out, and then it stops the flow of your pen. But pens like the zebra pen and the identity pen and the Sakura Pigma pens, you want to wait till it's completely dry. I'd even wait a day for it to dry before I started drawing on that acrylics, to make sure it's totally dry so it doesn't clog up your pens and ruin your pens. So thank you very much for tuning into the channel. Hope you got some knowledge, and I hope you try this technique. It's really good for those of you that like drawing characters and creatures and things that have a lot of form where you got to draw and define things with, sharp lines, thin lines, thick lines, and deep areas of black. Try these ink pens and try it on canvas. And of course, if you really enjoyed the video, like it, share it, sub down below, and come along for some of the other videos. Check out the rest of the channel. I explore, I'm making the epic story experience of Matsu, which is an epic poetic tale. And so tune in for all that and check it out. And of course, leave comments down below if you really enjoyed this technique and that you're applying it. I'd love to see what you do. You can post links to wherever you did something with ink on canvas, and definitely start talking to each other about the technique. And if you found anything that I didn't show you that works great, please share it. Thank you for tuning in to Ipaintcreatures, IPC, and the Funky Eye Puppets right here on YouTube.